You guys are good to go.
Got it. All right, just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Again, my name's Caleb Kupa. I'm an assistant coach at Westtown. I apologize for not having my screen on right now. Again, we had a player issue on campus, so I'm driving back to my apartment where I'll throw my collared shirt on and sit in my big man's chair like Jason. But just appreciate all of you guys coming out to try and get better tonight. We feel like we have 4 really great coaches for part 2 of our G League coaches panel that are really ready to share their stories and some advice with some coaches looking to hopefully progress in the business. So again, just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, Caleb said we just appreciate everyone coming, especially the coaches presenting today, sharing their knowledge. Me and Caleb just wanted to, share the game, help everyone we can who's willing to learn. For those who don't know me, my name is Jason Wain. I'm going to my junior year of high school in Nanuet, New York. I want to get into the coaching profession, so let me introduce our guests. We have Coach Oakman, the Long Island Nets. We have Coach Silas. We have Coach Gale, and we have Coach Domercant. First question goes to Coach Oakman. You spent time coaching at the high school level as well as Division I, Division III, and the G League level. How has that time in those lower levels prepared you for what you've been doing now? Jimmie, you're muted.
Yeah, rookie mistake, huh? Well, I appreciate you guys putting this together. First of all, you guys doing great things, especially at your age. It's pretty impressive. And, your questions that you guys kind of posed were well thought out. So I appreciate it. And anybody that has any questions during anything that I say, please feel free to interject. I take no offense. Anything that doesn't make sense that I can clarify, jump in. Looking back, I think you need to understand that this game that we love is a business at the end of the day. You got to understand everything that you're doing is about the brand that you bring to the team or organization that you work for. With that said, I think being at a variety of different levels gave me an appreciation for the profession. And the lower levels that you're at, they have smaller staffs, and you have kind of a greater breadth of responsibilities associated with it. So with climbing the ladder, your role becomes more specific as you go, and it doesn't mean that you're doing less, but you're really diving into things at a much deeper level. And I'm a guy that loves to have his hands in everything and, touch a little bit of this, touch a little bit of that. But even more so what I've found is I'm big on really just diving in, going a whole nother level deeper and trying to help translate that to the game. I've learned throughout this journey that there's no substitute for the work that you got to put in. And, you never want to leave anything to chance. And kind of my theme is going to be preparedness can take you far in this business. And so that's kind of how I've kind of gone about my business and kind of how, I've kind of climbed through my journey.
Yep. Thanks, Coach Oakman. Coach Silas, next question. How did your professional playing career help you prepare to coach at this level?
Just the experiences and the knowledge. I think being able to know that I wanted to coach in my last few years was helpful because I started to pay attention to little things and started to pick up on little things here and there. And so it's just that experience that you get when you're playing and actually walking in those shoes that you have a different understanding with the players on how they feel about certain things, what they're going through. And I think it's just invaluable. And I think that it's tough to replicate, but I think that it's possible through a lot of conversations and truly really understanding how players are. If you didn't play, but if you played, you have that feeling on your own and you can go off of your own experiences. So I think that it's a helpful deal. That's why you see these head coaches that have played so long in the NBA getting jobs with no coaching experience, just because they just have so much knowledge and experience that it's hard to replicate.
Yeah, for sure. Just like we just saw Steve Nash got that job with the Nets. Coach Gale, next question's for you. What did you learn during your time serving in support staff positions for the Clippers and Raptors that allowed you to progress to an assistant coaching role?
I took some notes here just to write some ideas down. So I'm going to try and my number one thing that I learned in all those roles is really to simplify things. So I'm going to try and simplify my answer here for you guys as I try and stick to what kind of one of my things is, right? So, being consistent every single day, like being like working for Coach Casey and working for Coach Dunleavy, they were extremely consistent every single day. The person they never got too high, never got too low. They, really, you simplify your playbook, simplify your style of communication so there's less thinking for your players. And then kind of coming up through the video room, you learn how to prepare and how to commit to the job. So you have to learn to love the grind. Being in the video room, you're there. You're the first one in the door most days, and you're the last one to leave most nights. So you really have to learn how to love what you're doing and commit to it. And then, in those roles, you get to work with a lot of different people. So with the Clippers, I got to work with the front office with Neil O'Shea, and then, going to the Raptors, you get to work with Mark Eversley and Brian Colangelo and the coaching staff. So you're kind of all over. So one of the things I think, Menelik, you've heard this for sure a lot up in Toronto, like Masai has preached this from the day he got there, was everything matters. Every little detail matters. Like nothing is too small. So, like I said, being around these people, you kind of pick up these little tidbits here and there. So it's understanding the details. And then one thing I think is really important that first I saw Vinny Del Negro do it, and then Coach Casey, and I know it's become a thing that a lot of coaches do now, but is sharing role cards with players. And then I think that translates to everybody in the organization, is just understanding your role, understanding how you fit, staying in your lane. A lot of young coaches, and I fell into this. You want to do more. You want to be given more responsibility. You want to be looked at differently. And I think understanding your role and how you fit in the grand scheme of things, everything else will eventually take care of itself if you just play your role. And then the last thing I like to share is like the power of positivity. I think when you're empowered and the people around you are very positive with you, I think it translates into your work. It translates into you wanting to come to work and how hard you work. And I think I've really become a big believer in that and kind of tried to share that as I've become an assistant and head coach the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Next question, Coach Domercant. Coach, you played professionally overseas and in the G League for a few years. How did this time prepare you to be an assistant coach in the G League?
In a lot of ways, to, I guess, be brief, one of the ways I think that jumps out the most is communication, especially playing overseas in as many situations as I have, learning to communicate to many different people, many ages, different groups, and also communicate the same language of basketball in different ways. I think that's one thing that's really prepared me in just communicating with others, because I think in basketball or in any other business where you want cooperation, I think communication of ideas is a very big thing, whether it's communicating roles or communicating anything. I just think helping me be a communicator, I think, is one way that prepared me. Another way would be, I can't stress enough, is work ethic. I wasn't the McDonald's All-American or whatever, and I had to work for every situation that I got, or every job that I had, or every level that I got. And I think that translates, whether it's the business world, whether it's basketball, I think that translates to also how you prepare. And for my experience so far, my young experience as a coach, preparation, is, one of the main factors of points of emphasis, I think, to success. And in short, being able to play for many different coaches, like I said, many different countries, you acquire a certain type of basketball intellect. You don't just learn the game one way. And even in coaching as well, I've coached 3 years now with 3 different coaches, and I've been able to learn different things from each coach. And I think just acquiring a certain level of basketball intellect from different situations also helped prepare me, I think, to help become a better coach ultimately.
Awesome. Caleb, you need me to do round 2 too?
Yeah, can you get started with round 2?
All right, awesome. I feel like I didn't give you guys a proper introduction. So second time around, coaches, would you guys like to just introduce yourselves, give a brief background? Coach Oakman, second question. What advice would you share to a coach looking to transition from high school coaching to college coaching and college coaching to the G League or the NBA?
Yeah, so Jimmie Oakman, my second year, I just finished with the Long Island and Brooklyn Nets, coached Division I, Division III high school levels before that. So I've seen a little bit. So your question kind of, hits on that. I think my best overall advice is kind of, it isn't who, like they always say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But I like to take it like a step further. Like it's who knows what you know, because they're not going to hire you. Like it's not, it's cool, I know you, I'm going to hire you. They got to trust you, right? So you got to be good at what you do. And that supersedes anything. And, relationships are built up over time. And you got to foster trust, which can eventually lead to a job down the road. You don't know when it could happen, but it could take years. It might never happen. But I think if you're organic in the relationships and care about putting the time in, that's how you're kind of going to grow. And for me, while coach at the lower levels, whether it's, high school, AAU, youth, you need to network with anybody and everyone, but you need to be intentional if you plan on doing it in this business. I don't think you can be fake and you can't hide kind of who you are. I think people can sniff that out pretty well. Like you can't fool players either. So if you're not true and transparent, people are going to figure that out pretty quickly. So networking is definitely an art, and it comes natural for a lot of people, right? Like for me, it doesn't. I'm much more introverted, and I know that. So when in situations, I try to find myself doing a lot more homework on people ahead of time. And, if I'm going to watch a practice back when I was in college, I'm going to find out everything about the staff I can. I'm going to look at the roster construction, find out the X's and O's. In case they ask me a question on it, I want to be prepared. And that's kind of how I approach everything. And same thing with our team. Going into a game, I want to know every single thing so that I can be prepared. So same way I approach, the transition from high school to college and kind of going from college to the NBA. And from getting to the college level to the pro level, I think that message doesn't change. You got to be intentional and organic about the relationship building. You're never going to build a true relationship with somebody probably from a cold call. It's not going to happen. It's going to be because you're in a situation where it's in an event or, whether it's a tournament, Final Four, Summer League, whatever that case is, that's where real conversations happen. Your friend introduces somebody. It's not going to be you just picking up the phone and dialing a number and saying, hey, like, this is who I am. That generally doesn't happen. So I think you need to put yourself in those situations where people are going to be. Go prepared and be you, and don't be somebody else. Because, if you're fake, like I said, it's not going to work out in the long run.
That's great advice, Jimmy. Next question for Coach Silas. Again, just introduce yourself first. What did the transition from player to coach look like for you? What are some things former players can do while playing after their careers have ended when looking to transition to coaching?
All right, well, I'm Xavier Silas. I played 9 years professionally. Just got done with my first year coaching with the Delaware Bluecoats in the Sixers organization. I think that the main thing that I was, like Coach Oak said, man, I was very intentional in what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to coach. So my last year in the G League, I had back problems. My back was acting up. And so instead of sitting on the bench, I asked them if I could live code a game in the back with the video guy. And so the video guy sat back there. He taught me how to do it. He let me do a quarter the first time. Then he let me do a half. And then before you know it, he was sitting on the bench and I was back there live coding the game on my own. And so, it's just little things like that, reaching out to your network. I had a great opportunity to play for Jeff Van Gundy and Jeff Bizdelic and, Brad Stevens and Mike Malone and all these people. And so when I just started reaching out like, hey, I want to get into coaching. What do I do? What do I need to do? And one of the best pieces of advice, Coach Van Gundy called me and he said, look, just coach. Like, just coach as much as you can. I don't care if it's Little League. I don't care if it's wherever. Just try to coach and get that clipboard in your hand. Start making those decisions. Start thinking about the game in that way. Because you're a player now, you have to start thinking about how you want to coach and who you are. And Scott Roth, I played for him, and he had a great thing. Well, a lot of people had the same thing. Vinny Del Negro and everybody, they all said the same thing, which was start writing down everything, right? Write down what you want to do, who you want to be. And, like it's just a common theme with coaches and successful coaches is they write everything down, and they can go back to their notes. Butch Carter, same stuff. You can go back to their notes from 30 years ago and figure it out. And so for me, I guess the answer to that question is just start using your network, start using your resources, reach out to people, because you learn so many different things from different people. Like H said, he going and playing overseas, they see things differently, and how you communicate with everybody. It's just so much information, and if you want that information, you can get it. But if you just say you want to coach and you don't do anything about it, that's not gonna happen. And so I sought out the NBA assistant coaches program, and I started reaching out to contacts, and I let people know that I wanted to do it. And then it's the same thing. It's just I still am doing the same thing, figuring out. I hit D Gale up. He can tell you. I DM him, hey, what did you do? What was your transition like, and all that stuff. And so I think you're onto something, Jay, as far as what you're doing already, because this is what you want to do. But my suggestion would be go out and inquire and ask questions and try to figure it out.
Yeah, that's great. I know we have a couple people in here transitioning from playing to coaching, so that's great advice. Caleb, you got it from here?
Yep. No, I think what Coach Silas just said is big time. I know a lot of the times in coaching, a lot of people feel like because they're in coaching, they feel like their head coach or their assistants know they want to move up. But if that's not verbalized to the staff, then they're not going to be able to help you. So I really appreciated Coach Silas kind of breaking that down, because I think a lot of coaches kind of fall into that trap. So appreciate that. I just want to personally thank all the coaches again for being on here. I know I'm on camera now, so now we can really get things rolling. So Coach Gale, you transitioned from support staff to an assistant coach, and now you're serving as a head coach. So since you kind of have the viewpoint from all three positions, what are some of the things you're looking to have in an assistant or support staff member when you're kind of building your staff?
I guess let me introduce myself like the other guys did. So I started off with the Clippers in the video room I was there for 4 years with Coach Dunleavy and Coach Del Negro. I moved to the Raptors with Coach Casey, and I was there for 6 years, 2 years fully in the video room, 2 years on the second row of the bench, and then 2 years with the 905 team. And then I went to Delaware for a year. And then the last 2 years I've been in Germany serving as a head coach for MHP Reason and Porsche BBA there. So I don't have a lot of experience hiring my own staff, but I have done it the last 2 years. So I think a couple of the things I looked for in my assistants, especially year one, I kind of inherited some guys. In year two, I was able to learn from that experience some more. So some of those things I think are things that I learned from the coaches I worked for. I learned from some of the guys, like the player development guys I was with, like Eric Hughes, who's on this call, Billy Bano, Jesse Murmis, all about building relationships. So I really look for coaches that are able to communicate, like Henry said, communicate their message clearly and able to reach the players and build these relationships where the players know how much you care about them. I think that's extremely important. Guys have to know you care. I think that someone that you want to spend time, or that I want to spend time with outside of practice. So not just someone who I can go to practice with, get on the court, and then we go separate ways. I want someone that I can hang out with outside of that. Go have dinner. Our wives can get together, hang out, it's a relationship that you want to build on. It's not just about basketball. Again, that's another thing that I learned from some of the guys I was with. It's as much as it is about basketball and the commitment to it, it's about the relationships outside the game as well. So finding guys that you can connect with and like Jimmie said, like, you're real. The relationship is real. It's not built on a fake a fake networking event or something like that. People that are open to thinking outside the box. I think that's one thing I really learned. Everyone now watches Coach Nurse in Toronto, but when he was an assistant, I was lucky enough to work under him in the video room, and he really, it's outside the box. It's all these, people ask, what does that mean? But it's like, at the time, one of the things he was really big on was changing up the tag guy. So we'll run the same play 3 different times and just move the pieces around. And so it changes who's in the tag position, who's in the pick and roll. So that's just an example. But, I would want an assistant coach with me that's willing to think outside the box, throw some crazy ideas off the wall, see what sticks. That was one way Coach Stackhouse really put it. Throw it off the wall, see what sticks, and we'll take it and we'll try it. And if it works, let's run with it. So I think finding people that are willing to try new things, adjust on the fly. And then I think the last thing that I really looked for in my assistant coach that I found last year was someone who loves the game and understands the grind that it takes to be a professional coach. It's not just coming to practice or being there for a couple hours before practice. It's all day long. It's all year long. It's, workouts in the summertime. It's late nights in the gym with, for me, it was with DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry coming back at 10 o'clock at night. So it's someone who understands the grind of the job and is willing to commit to getting everyone better, building the program and getting your players better.
No, appreciate that, Coach. I mean, I think we should all know that when we take these jobs, they're not 9-to-5 jobs. You're working a lot of hours outside of that, because as a coach, there's so many things that we're required to do, because ultimately we want what's best for our players. We want them to be successful. So like you said, giving up your time, obviously there's a bunch of other things that you want to do, but when you love your players and they ask you to work out at 10 o'clock at night, you want to do that because it'll help them get better. So I really appreciate that. And then lastly, Coach Henry, our last question. So again, just like Jason said, if you could give us a quick bio about yourself, your journey, and then your question is, you've been fortunate enough to work for a couple of different coaches in your time coaching in the G League. What are some things that you've been able to learn from each of your head coaches over the past 3 years?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Henry Domercant. I played professionally for 13 years. 13 or 14, I'm getting old. Primarily in Europe, 1 year in the G League as well. I've coached, my first season was in Maine, under obviously the Boston Celtics G League affiliate. The last 2 years I've been with the Windy City Bulls, obviously the Chicago Bulls affiliate. Another interesting fact, I guess, before I answer the question, is that now being with the Bulls, I've also been under 2 head coaches. They've had coaching changes from the main club, and now they're obviously looking for their 3rd. So that also brings about some unique transition as well. To answer the question, if I get it right, what you said, what are some things I've learned from each coach?
Correct.
Wow. I think it was Dave said, you pick up tidbits along the way, right? And some things I can remember pretty vividly from Coach Bailey, obviously under Brad Stevens, which is he probably was in the organization 7 years before he became a head coach for the Maine Red Claws. Was be a star in your role as assistant coach. We all have aspirations, we all have goals to get to certain places. But initially, you may have a role, you may not, you may love it, you may not, but be a star in your role where you are. And then look to look to help others. Also, do your job, do it well, and then also try to help others with their job wherever you see a need. Try to add value. That was one of the main things he preached, and I think it serves everyone well who's a part of the staff to do that. Charlie was Charlie Henry, who's now, I think he's coaching at Alabama, assistant coach at Alabama under Coach Oates. His big phrase, the one thing I think I picked up from him was no gray area. He didn't want to coach in the gray, especially defensively. He wanted everyone to know where they should be, and there wasn't much confusion. And sometimes, especially offensively, there's some gray or there's some randomness to it. But I think one of the big takeaways that year was to really try to remove the gray area for our guys. And Coach Cotter, who I've just been under, the development was more than just a philosophy or a catchphrase. He was intentional about developing not only the players, but his staff, which, I think I grew from a lot, and, it aided me in my development, to say a word. I think, especially our league being, the developmental league, I think sometimes that can get lost when we're focused on wins or focused on, could be your own coaching, personal aspirations or whatever it is, but truly not only caring about the players, but development being, a major factor and input in all of your decisions, whether that's the staff, players, or whoever, whether it's the business side. I think development was more than a philosophy, I guess, to him. And also be you as a coach. Playing overseas, I played for a lot of Yugoslavia or ex-Yugoslavian coaches who had a pretty consistent style among them. And for a long time, I felt like I couldn't be a head coach because I couldn't coach that way. And a lot of those coaches were the successful coaches in Europe during my time. And that wasn't my personality or the style I wanted to be a part of. But he showed, he really showed me another way, also being an international coach who's Australian, but just using his personality and his influence, using the international style, more of an international style in the NBA developmental league, just showed me that, you can be you as a coach and still have some success, and, you can still be a head coach, and you don't think you have to be like any other coach that you had per se.
No, I think that's definitely big time, coach, because obviously you have to be yourself and you have to do what's going to make you most successful. And I think authenticity is one of the things that players can kind of sniff out. If you're not being authentic in your true self, the players are going to know that automatically. They're going to be able to tap into what you do and what you do well. So appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, coaches, I just have one more question for all of you guys, and then we'll open up for everyone else to ask questions. Caleb and I have kind of talked about this in terms of relationships or building, networking and stuff like that. Be transactional, add value instead of just, saying happy holidays, hope you're doing well. Can you guys kind of just talk about that a little bit?
I'll jump in. I think that's important. I think, especially when I was younger in this business, when I first started going, I think I wanted to keep private stuff that I learned along the way. For me now, everything I do, I just try to share and to create conversation. Like if I do a study on something or I'm watching a ton of film, I want to give that information out, because if I give it out, it's going to force me to keep studying to learn more. Because if I give you everything, you're going to know what I know, and I need to keep pushing forward. And at the very least, hopefully it creates some conversation with somebody I share that information with. So I think it's important to give, and, you don't need to receive just because you give because you want to, help grow this game that we all, hopefully can have a living off of. And that's the right thing to do, to give back. And that's just the way I kind of approach it. And it's kind of, been pretty good for me.
Yeah, one of the things I do is when I'm watching basketball or I have a thought, I'll just text somebody and see what they think about it. You know, like I was watching Portland and they were trapping Dame as soon as he crossed half court, and they were putting Nurkic in that short roll. And they kept doing it and kept doing it, and I thought that it was really killing them. And so I just texted a few of the head coaches that I know, hey, what adjustment would you make with this? And that's like an organic, real way. Instead of saying, oh, hey, happy holidays or Merry Christmas or whatever, that's an organic, real way to keep a relationship going and kind of learn something as you go. So, you know, when you're watching stuff or you're breaking down film or you have a thought, I would just say just reach out to somebody that you respect, that you want to know the answer, and ask that question.
Yeah, I think actually you kind of took part of what I was going to say there. I think reaching out to guys just to do it. One, you can bug them a little bit. And it seems fake, right? It's just like, oh, you're just texting me just to say hello, just so I know you still are around. So one thing I know being overseas the last 2 years that I kind of tried to do because of the time difference was, in order to stay in contact with some of the people that I consider to be, you know, close to me in the business, I would try and make a schedule, like schedule it out when I was going to call somebody, which might sound like it's, you know, kind of fake, but at the same time, you get caught up in your daily schedule and practice, in planning practice and watching film, and then you've got your life at home. So I think for me, it was really making a conscious effort to continually reach out to people that I'm close with, and then through that, the relationships become more and more real. You remain kind of in contact with what's happening in different organizations, different styles of play, and the conversations are much more organic when it's, you know, you're calling for a reason, just, you know, rather than just to say, hey, I'm here, hello, you know. So I think making a schedule every day is really one thing that helps me keep in contact with people.
For me,
oh, go ahead, Coach. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, for me, you know, those are all really good answers. I probably haven't done this as well as I should. You know, if I'm being honest, a lot of times I tend to just reach out to people I've already had a relationship with prior. But any new ones, you know, I try to be a resource, and I try to, like they said, add value, or maybe ask a question or share something I think is great. But honestly, I think this is an area I can grow in. So.
No, I appreciate all those, and I especially like what Coach Silas talked about, kind of just starting up that conversation on, Coach, what would you do if you were in this situation? Because then that gets the basketball conversation going. And again, like some of the coaches talked about, coaches like Coach Oakman talked about, coaches are going to hire you for what you know and what they know that you know. So if you can have a complex basketball conversation with a coach that is going to be looking for an assistant or looking for a support staff member in a couple of years, and you're constantly having these high-level basketball conversations with them, they're going to be the first one that they come to mind when it is time to hire that. I mean, kind of what Jason and I talked about. Phil Martelli Jr., an assistant at Bryant, told me a couple months ago that reaching out to college coaches saying, hey, coach, like happy Father's Day, different things like that, they'll never look to hire you because they don't know what you know again. But if you're constantly adding value, like Jason talked about, and putting different resources, or some of the things that I've suggested that he do as he tries to navigate this business, I think that's so much more beneficial, because it's, again, showing the value that you'll be adding to a program if they were to hire you. So really appreciate that question, Jason. So now we're going to open it up for questions. So if you have a question, just drop your name in the chat. When it's your time to ask your question, just introduce yourself to the coaches, tell them who you are, where you're currently working at, and we'll go from there. So first we have Safet. So Safet, unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Yeah, Caleb, just real quick, I just want to add on to that. Recently, like me and Caleb talked about it, since I've started like trying to send videos or stuff like that to coaches, I've really felt like it's made the conversation more genuine, and it's just, you know, feels more real. So that's definitely a big thing.
Thanks, Caleb and Jason. I hope everyone's doing well. My name's Safet Kastrat, and I'm a student manager at Rider University. and I also work for Chad Babel at Maine Hoops. This is a quick question for Coach Domercant. This basketball world is so small. I was actually texting Thrill Hill, Kyle, right before I got on here, and super small world. So my parents are from ex-Yugoslavia, Albania, and Bosnia, and I wanted to ask you a question on the cultural side of it. For you playing out there, how was it, first of all, and how long did it take for you to adapt, and what was something that you took that we don't do in America on the developmental side that you think American basketball coaches, trainers, etc., can implement?
Wow. It was a different time, obviously, when I started over there. So this was pre iPod, pre FaceTime. This was AOL Messenger and what is it? The Internet Cafe. So communicating definitely was different. Basketball now is a universal language. I think the younger generation, it's more people who speak English. So definitely just trying to embrace the culture and learn from my teammates. I think that helped take me a lot farther because I was an American who was willing to do that. What was the second question again? I don't want to talk too long.
Yeah. Just real quick, what was something that you took in the Yugoslavian countries that you played in, that something they do different in Yugoslavia that we could take in America, basketball developmental wise, that we don't do or you didn't see growing up playing?
Wow. I think as far as a team practice and things like that, I think they do more team shooting overall. We're so individual workout heavy and things like that, but also just shooting in practice. You know, some guys, especially during the season, you may have some guys want to get up shots after and some guys who don't, or you got to drag them in, things like that. But just shooting as a team and doing different drills like that, I think that's emphasized more. Also, I think at times we can be so position specific here. And I think earlier on, it didn't matter if you were 6'10" or you were 5'10", you know, you were still working on a lot of the same things. And I think that's why, you know, fundamentally there's for a long time overseas had some things that we didn't have as far as developing bigger talent or young talent.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Menelik, you could go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Menelik Fernandez. I am the interim head coach of Fleming College up here in Canada. I have a bit of a relationship with a few of you, but Xavier, first time meeting you. Henry, first time meeting you. Thank you for doing this, first of all. So obviously I'm on the Rising Coaches account, so I'll say that. My question is this: at your levels, and like I said, I've interacted with a couple of you guys fairly frequently, so I definitely want to hear your perspectives as well. Don't think just because we've interacted before, I don't. It's to all four of you. At your particular level, how are you choosing projects that are sort of outside of your job description to keep yourself sharp, keep yourself getting better, improve, etc.? Like I know that we watch a ton of video at the levels that you guys are at. So what are you doing outside of that, and how are you choosing it?
For me, I've done a lot of research just on the benefit of reading. And it's not so much about what you're reading or if it has to be about basketball or whatever, but just expanding your mind. I think I saw Ryan Richmond on here. We always have a lot of conversations and have for a lot of years now on different books that you can read that just changes your perspective on things. It's going to change the type of person you are, which ultimately is going to change the type of coach that you are. And so, like for me, what I've been doing and what I chose to do is just try to read as many books as I can during this time, different types of books about all types of different things. And it just has helped me grow in different ways that I'm sure when coaching starts back up for me and everyone else, I'm going to approach things differently. So that would be my answer to that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll kind of hit on how I kind of decide on the projects I'm looking for. For me, it was all about, especially in season, was how can I make the head coach's job easier? That was kind of how I looked at it. Like whatever I can do to add value that's going to take something off his plate. Whether it's, we're playing, the 905, right? And this is their end of game stuff. And then, like, I was kind of my responsibility to look after all that anyways, but like, I'm just diving in deep. Like, how can I make this information digestible for him? And the easier I could do that, and, kind of starring in your role, right? Like I was responsible for our rotations. Well, who can I learn from that does the rotations for other teams? What are they doing? Like, how do you add value in that sense? So I'm always trying to take what I do and then kind of expand on it. And some ideas are dumb. Like, not everyone's going to be a hit for sure. And sometimes it feels like you waste your time, but you're going to learn along the way. And I think, if you're just trying to learn and do it, in a genuine fashion, I think, there's going to be benefit in that no matter what.
Appreciate it, Jimmy. Thanks.
So I think for myself, having the opportunity to be a head coach the past couple of years, I think I tried to take some ideas from coaches that I had worked for or had the ability to be around and try and do some stuff off the court. So with my team in Germany, I looked for ways that were of like team bonding activities that weren't your typical things. So ways to get guys to bring guys together. And so I tried to talk to different coaches that I've been around or go back on my notes. I think it was Jimmie that said it, guys who have notes for years and years and years, right? So I went back and looked at some notes I'd taken from past years, but just looking for new ideas and new ways to bring guys together off the court was one thing. And then also, using all your resources at your disposal and trying to help yourself grow from where you happen to be. So for me, it was, I was in Europe. I wanted to take advantage of being in Europe. So I wanted to learn from the coaches that were over there. So whether it was my scout for a game where I was an assistant coach with the pro club, or another league I wanted to watch or something like that, I tried to take advantage of the opportunity of being in Germany and watch EuroLeague teams and get ideas that you don't really see in American basketball, and just really take advantage of that.
Thanks for that.
For me, it was a couple of things, I guess, especially during quarantine. We had a lot of time. I trying to help, obviously, the team. I was just looking at what were we bad at. I thought as far as the Bulls, for a lot of the season, we're a pretty good defensive team, even though we struggle so much on offense. And so I went online and I just started researching our team, basically scouted the team. I said, what were we bad at? And then just research why. If I picked out a situation, just research why, and then, gave it to one of the assistant coaches. And as far as myself, one of the things that actually Coach Cotter, his influence again, was about cultivating strengths, and developing. And so some of the things I was interested in, and I guess some of the things I had a knack for as a player was shooting the basketball. So I said, well, how can I teach shooting better? How can I make corrections and help people grow in this area? And so I started researching NBA shooting coaches and gathering information and then formulating my own opinion and creating something in that way. Also, as far as, in the G League, you wear many hats, like a lot of you guys know, and really wanting to be able to help develop our guys better. I said, what are some things what positions do we struggle at, and what are some things that helped us this year grow and help? What do I think can help in the future? And so, simple thing like it could be, 90% of the G League is in the drop for pick and roll. So what are some new ways, or what are some ways I can help coach our guys to be better attacking the drop, whether it's, the roll man or whether it's the ball handler. And just putting together an edit or a teach tape and just have many different things that we can drill and just really honing in on some things so I can just firm them in my mind so I can be able to just teach them better, communicate them better, and, just point out some ways to have success, hopefully a little bit faster.
Coach, thank you. The teaching points one is one that I dwell on a lot. I'm fascinated by how to teach better a lot of the time. Appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, those were awesome answers. Just a huge thanks to Menelik. He's been moderating these Zooms all summer long. We wouldn't be able to do this without him, so we appreciate you, Menelik.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
We got Manny next.
Good evening, guys. First and foremost, coaches, thank you for your time. Manny here, GA, Michigan State University. For coaches that are interested in learning about the G League, for guys that want to learn about the college level, you got the Final Four, you go to Peace Jam, tied in with a good prep or AU program. Where would you start besides a DM or a cold call if you do want to learn more about the G League and build relationships when things do go back to normal? Sorry, anyone you guys can answer this. Just one of you guys is fine.
That's a tough question. I think there's a million ways. I see Dave laughing, but I think, there's a million ways to do it in this business, and I think this is a great way, right? Stuff like this and being open and trying to be as authentic as possible is the best way you can kind of do it. And, I put my number in the chat, and I mean, anybody that's in here, please shoot me a text. Like you said, kind of asking that question. I would love to elaborate more and go into more detail and answer any questions that people have. I don't know the right answer. I don't know if there is a perfect one, but things like this for me have been truly valuable. That's why I try to join every single Zoom call I can get on, just so I can rub some elbows. You might know somebody that knows somebody that can connect me. And, just this being on it and being here is valuable.
I think one thing is the showcase. Once we start to have that, I think that's where all teams are gathered, right? Any NBA event. A lot of the decision makers for the G League are also for the pro club as well. So any NBA event you can do or attend, I think that helps. And like everyone said, it's games or any place where there's the G League happening or a G League event, try to be and try to make contacts and do the whole networking thing that I guess Jimmie said that I'm still bad at.
I would say, you said don't cold call or not don't do it, but maybe it's not always looked at the right way. I think most people I've come in contact with in coaching in the NBA or in the G League are genuinely good people for the most part. And so I think, and I've kind of changed my opinion on this as I've gotten older and I think matured a little bit and grown up in the business, that I think reaching out to people, whether it's Twitter or text message or Instagram or whatever it is, wherever you can contact them, I think most people will get back to you. And then you kind of go from there. If you have connections, if you have some sort of common ground, I think you can build a relationship. But for me, like Jimmie said about these platforms here, most of the times I've spoken on a platform, on a Zoom call, has been me reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, I would like to speak for you guys. And it's worked. So I think until you ask or until you contact people, you don't really know.
I agree with everyone. I don't think that there's one way to do it. If you're looking for a physical place where all the G League people are together, there's definitely the showcase. That a lot of people are there, but everyone's working. Sometimes they're chilling, but I would say that that's the equivalent to the Final Four for the G League. But yeah, I just think that you have to knock on the door and keep knocking until someone answers. Honestly, I don't think that there's a right way to do it, and you're going to hear a whole bunch of no's. But I think that you got to be consistent when it comes to that.
Appreciate you.
If I could add one more thing, I think, like, you're a Michigan State guy, I think you should reach out to some alums. I think there's that common bond. I've seen that, carry guys to actually help guys or do something. I had one guy reach out to me. From Arkansas. I connected him to Gennaro Pargo, and he, a former Arkansas player, he wanted to, help him, and he connected with him. And, our former coach for the Bulls was Jim Boylan, and he was a Michigan State guy. And I felt like there was always somebody new from Michigan State walking through the doors. And so I think, guys, that common bond will go further than you think.
And just to jump into it, Henry, you brought something up great too that, kind of jogged my mind on it. Manny, like, you're at Michigan State, you guys have great players. Probably all your seniors are going to play professionally somewhere. So whether you send them to us, NBA, overseas, like, you're going to have the film edits on these guys already done. Like, you can start putting together your own stuff for them. Like, forget whoever agent they have, like, you can do it. And so it doesn't hurt. It's going to build a relationship. It's going to, refine your own skills. You're going to see things in their game that you can relate to the player, and then you can relate to coaches that you want to network with. Just, kind of spitball on ideas, but you're in a prime position to kind of go both ways.
Appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah, that was some great answers, great question. Like you said, everyone knows the NCAA Final Four, but G League Showcase, not a lot of people know about. Great point. Chase, your next question.
Thank you. Coaches, appreciate your time. My name is Chase Crawford. I'm a student manager at the University of Georgia. Mr. Gale, sir, I had a question for you. So personally, as a student manager whose interest lies in the video and analytics side, I was interested to know, after your 2 years working in the video room, what would you say contributed most to your movement from the video room to assistant coaching position?
So it was actually 6 years in the video room. So it's a long grind. It's a long grind in the video room. I would say one thing I hit on earlier is just, like, really understanding that you're like the go-to guy for everything. And so being there first and being there last, and making sure everyone sees that you're there and you're available, making yourself available. And then one thing I learned, I think it was in my 3rd year with the Clippers, John Lucas was an assistant coach there. And he kind of told me, and then the coaches, when I got to Toronto, kind of reminded me of this, is get your work done early so you can get on the court. So get the video done, be prepared, have everything the coaches need, and then you're not being pulled in 10 different directions to do a bunch of different tasks, and you can get on the court and help rebound, and they can start to see you in a different light. Because that's the biggest thing, is they need to see you in a different way than just the video guy. And that's one thing I think people, sometimes you'll see, or you used to at least see, video coordinators be in the video room for 15, 20 years, where they just got stuck in that role because you get comfortable and you just do what you're asked to do, and you don't kind of push yourself out of that comfort zone. So for me personally, like in Toronto, I would get to the arena sometimes at 5 a.m. and that's an extreme example, but 6, 7, whatever it is, and you get done before the coaches get there. So when practice starts, you can load their computers up and you can get on the court.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Greg, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Just a quick question on a little bit of work-life balance sort of question I had. Being in this game, it's a massive amount of hours that you have to put in to do your job properly. Advice: I'm married with 3 kids, so it's an interesting balance I have to work. Any advice on, as you move up the level? Sorry, I'm a college coach, assistant at Fairshot College here in Ontario, same league as Menelik there. And as I hear stories from everybody talking, it's like 2 years here, 3 years there, 2 years overseas. How do you sell your significant other on that? And then how on that do you because obviously they're going to have dreams or goals or ambitions as well. What advice would you give on how to work that out? I'm in my 4th year coaching college now as an assistant, and obviously same as everybody else in this call, or else they wouldn't be here. Being a head coach is obviously sort of where I would like to go, whether it's in Canada or wherever. How do you sell that to your significant other that, hey, we can work here for 2 years and work here for 2 years and go? Hope that makes sense.
I see some deep breaths being taken in there. Woo!
I'll jump in. Because I had the same question when I first started. I remember thinking, like, how do these coaches have kids and have families and travel all the time and in the office all the time and all that? I think I can't remember what coach it was that told me this. I think it was probably one that had been divorced at least one time. But they said find someone that understands and is that understands the work, the hours, and then I think along with that, there's got to be a balance. You've got to figure out a way to have a schedule or have some time mapped out where you can separate yourself from work. And I'm not very good at this. I think my wife will tell you that. So coming home and bringing your work home with you, I think you have to be able to at some point turn it off and figure out a way of how many hours that is or what it is, or what your non-negotiables are of when you can have your family time, but still, dedicate enough of yourself to the job.
I'll try to chime in as best I can. For me, with my significant other, she has a good job. So we try to look at it, what situation is best for us combined, not just my career. And, I take that into account. I really value that. And like David said, at certain times you got to shut it down. And I know for me, making the jump from Division I to the pro levels, the work-life balance is a lot better. Like, before I was getting calls, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Like, and here in the 2 years that I've worked for 2 different head coaches in the G League, they never once called me after 7 o'clock unless we're on the road and it was get dinner. Like, they never bothered you. When you're home, you're doing your job. They expect you to do it. You come ready to do your job. Practice is early in the day. No one hangs around after practice. You go home, you do your scout, you prepare for the next one, you keep it moving. And so, by the time my significant other gets back home, hopefully I got all my stuff done, and then, it's kind of our time from there. But, it's a tricky thing. I think, a million different ways to kind of navigate that.
I think what helped me, because I've been with my wife since I was in college. So she's been through all the playing everywhere and now coaching and moving and this and that. And so what helped me is, I think, just having an honest conversation on, like, is this something that you want to do? Do you want to roll with me through all this? And if you do, this is what it's going to be like. And if you don't, then we have to have another conversation. And so I think if you try to make it sweeter than it is, that's going to backfire. I think you just have to be real and honest and have a tough conversation about, look, it's going to be like this, and it can get worse if something happens. We may have to move. We may have to do that. But if you're down, you're down. And if you're not, you're not. And that's kind of like a really, really – I know that's not the answer anybody wants to hear, but it's kind of the truth. It's the truth. If they don't support you, then you're going to be miserable, and you're going to have to make a choice on if you want to continue doing this or if you want to find another job. And so that's just what it was for me, and we were able to work it
out. Speaking of workflow and work-life, I also have 2 kids, and definitely still trying to learn and figure it out as far as time. But I would say take advantage of the time. One thing, whether you're on the road or a road trip, work ahead when you can. Take advantage of the time. Also understand how much time that you need for, typically if I don't know if you're doing multiple edits for a scout, maybe, typically you can start to understand if, okay, I need 2 hours for this edit, or I need, a large amount of time for that edit. Understand how much time you need to do certain things. Try to work ahead. Try to take advantage of time when you're on the road. Also, if you have a spare 15 minutes, like you can get more done than you think in 15 minutes if you focus in, with your laptop. It might be you get to the gate of your flight and you're like, I can pull out my laptop, or I can just wait for them to call me to board. But if you got an extra 20 minutes, use those 20 minutes, because that time can add up. As far as, making the decision with the wife, I'm constantly in there. Like, I guess like Jimmie, my wife has a unique job, and I think it changes what I pursue. Situations I pursue. There's situations I wouldn't leave for, or, my first year in Maine, I left and I was away from my family. And for the first year of me coaching, and, we came to the decision that, that's not going to work for us anymore. So it's whether, we all go or I don't go. You come to that, at certain points, you make certain decisions like that. But I think, like Xavier said, to having honest conversations about things like that, and what you value, what you prioritize. And if it's, there might be a great job all the way on the moon, but it might not be for you. You might have to wait for the right situation that works for everyone, and that's okay.
Something else too I thought of, and I hate bringing it back, but it matters who you work for too. Your boss, if he's not a family man and he has a family and he doesn't want to go home, it's going to be miserable for your family. That's the truth. And for us, like in our staff, we've been really lucky. Like, we have a great culture. We have great family guys with our team. Like, I know the other guys on staff's kids. Like, I know them, and that's valuable to me, because I want that same thing when I have children too. And we play in the same arena that the New York Islanders play in. Like, we go to a game with their families. Like, we're around each other. It's not just we work together. Like, we try to be all family together and spend that time and be intentional about it. So, not everyone can pick their job and choose what they want. But, if you go to a situation that the boss doesn't have much of a family life, it's going to be hard for you to have one too.
No, really great advice. I mean, I think there's a lot of young coaches on this call, so it's good to kind of hear that advice now before you kind of get in those situations where you're with a significant girlfriend or a wife, so that you kind of know what you're getting into as you progress through the coaching profession. So I really appreciate all 4 of those responses, coaches. Nate, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, first off, thank you guys, coaches, for just coming on and doing a Zoom chat. I'm a head manager at Malone University D2, and I've asked Jimmie this question kind of before, but what is kind of the best ways for like people who are interested in basketball operations in front office kind of to bring value to like a front office, like to bring value through like that, and like to like your operations staff, like a manager interested in that is like, what are some of the roles and some of the different values that you can bring, like intel reports, data analytics, travel itineraries? What are some of the ways that you guys would recommend going about that to attack something like that you're interested in?
My first inclination was to say, I don't know, but I can guess. I think you answered some of your question that you asked, but also, like, I'll steal a Dave quote, think outside the box. I think when you're operations guy, especially in the G League level, you have to be a fixer. I call our guy like the fixer. There's going to be some problems that come up, or travel, or there's going to be some things that not going to go as planned, or is going to be difficult as logistically. And I think if you can problem solve well and do that, so any way that you can show that besides that side of you, besides the intel analytics and things like that, but if you can problem solve for them or show them that you can, be an answer to a problem, is always a good way to get attention of those who are above you. If you can show that you have answers and bring solutions, to maybe something that they face, then I think that'll go a long way.
Yeah, I would kind of second that or jump on that. Like ask the guys who are above you, kind of what's on their table, what's on their plate, right? And whatever like the bottom thing is or the thing that they don't want to do, just take it off their plate for them, right? So I'm sure the guys, like everyone's always got 5, 6 things they have to get done. So that last thing they don't want to do, offer to do it for them. And sometimes if you work for good people, they will recognize that. If you don't, they'll just continue to try and pile on some stuff. So again, like Jimmie said, it all depends on the kind of person you're working for. But I think try and take some stuff off the guys' plates ahead of you, and generally that's usually recognized.
I'd also say backup plans. Always having a backup plan for things, because things like H said, it's going to go wrong. Something's going to go wrong. And so if you're thinking ahead and just making it smooth for everybody, and when something goes wrong, you're already on top of it because you already have a plan in place, I think that changes the game. And so that's my little 2 cents that I would throw in there.
I think more importantly than even just getting all the tasks done and being great with itineraries and that stuff, like, you got to be a great person. Like our operations guy in Long Island is a monster. Like he's the best I've ever seen anywhere. Like he's tremendous. And I got to see him work, for the last 2 years in our strength and conditioning coach, Rasan Robinson's on the call, and he can vouch for him. The guy that we have is great. And it's just, he's always a pleasure to be around. Every day, it's just easy to be around him. Like X said, he always has a backup. If something goes wrong, the dude has a plan. Like, we couldn't have a bus and we could be in Fort Wayne and he would have one on the way. Like that type of stuff, and being the guy that has the answers, like Henry was saying, you can prepare for it, but it's like having a child. Like it doesn't matter how many books you read or whatever, it's not going to prepare you. Like for that role, you better have millions of solutions for any problem you don't even know you're going to have.
Appreciate that, coaches. Jason, you want to ask your question?
Yeah. This is kind of a question for anybody. You guys probably will all have similar answers, so not everybody needs to answer it, but can you guys just take us through a day in the life of an assistant coach in the G League, where David, Coach Gale, now head coach overseas, of a game day and a practice?
Sure, I'll start. Yeah. So, well, I think to answer the first part of your question, because I worked for 3 different coaches in 3 years in the G League, kind of like Henry's situation, right? Like it's each coach is going to be different. So when it was Jesse Murmis, we'd have a meeting before practice, we'd have a practice around 11 o'clock, and then guys would shoot, guys would lift. And then we would always work out together as a staff. We'd figure out a way to get that done. And I know some coaches do that. Like I know Kobe Carl does that with his staff with the South Bay team. When it was Coach Stackhouse, it was much longer days. We were there from a coach's meeting at 6 in the morning to practice from 7 to 8:30 for player development. Then we would have time where we could get our work done. And then we would come back for another practice at about 3 p.m. So we were going twice a day with Coach Stack. And then in Delaware, it was more similar to what we did with the first year at 905, like one practice, coaches meeting. We kind of went out to eat together a lot there at night because no one was from Delaware. So we kind of had to figure some things out there together. And then for me, for a game day in Germany, we would have a shoot around that generally, I think Henry and X can probably relate to this. Shoot around was not like NBA shoot arounds are an hour or G League shoot arounds are an hour. Like overseas shoot arounds can go however long the coach wants to go if you're in the home arena for sure. So we would have long shoot arounds. We then had our team meal, kind of similar to a college setup like that. And then you come back a lot the time before a game that you're in the arena is a lot shorter than in the G League or the NBA. You're only there for, we would get there like an hour and a half before the game and have about 45 minutes for shooting. But then your games start much later in the day. So you're playing at 8:30 p.m. And then you've got the VIP room you have to go to when you're up. So you're up there. You're usually, I mean, we were in the arena till midnight a lot of nights. And because I was part of 2 teams, I would have a U19 game that I was head coaching in the middle of the day, and then the pro game at night. So it was long days in Europe, very long.
Kind of my work, like our game day workflow, a few of us would kind of get our lift in at 8 in the morning and kind of be there together and make our way over to the facility at the game, like where we play our games at, around 10 o'clock or so. We'd meet as a staff at 10:30 and meet with the players at 11 and kind of go for about an hour, like you said. That brings you to roughly, noon or so, a little bit after. Staff would kind of shower up, talk about a few things, and then we go grab lunch together. And, some guys might go home or whatever. I would stay at our facility, handle our rotations with the head coach, talk about the ATOs we're going to run that night, make sure we have the right lineups. We'd kind of script everything out we wanted to do. And then after he would kind of do his own deal, that's when I would study the end of game stuff. So I have like a window from like 3 to 5 that I would kind of break down all the end of game that I want to prepare and make sure it's ready for him. And then I had the first guys on the floor at 5 o'clock. And then I was done by 5:30. I get to kind of chill for the next hour and a half. And like I said, like anything the head coach needs, I got that window, and this is trying to, prepare him as best possible. And that's kind of my game day.
Yeah, game day for me was pretty similar to these guys. We would always kind of meet 2 to 3 hours before shoot around. So shoot arounds at 11, we'd be in there at 8, meeting and going through the scout and different schemes and what we're going to do. Have shoot around, go home. And when we talk about the work-life balance piece, when I go home, that's when I try to hang out with the boys. I have 2 young sons. So hanging out with them, because I know I'm not going to really get to see them that day or hang out with them that day. So trying to plan before that and chill with them and see them. And then I go back to the gym at 4 because we would, the young guys are on the court, or guys that aren't going to play that much are on the court at 4 kind of going live. And then I'd be out there for that. And then, games at 7:30. And that's the day. So it's long days. If you're a player looking into coaching, that's one of the biggest differences, is that your time requirement changes drastically, and I was one of the guys that would get there early, or I thought I was getting there early, but not nearly as early as the coaches are getting there. So, I'd go early and shoot and just the transition, I was like, dang, like my coaches that I used to play for were here a lot earlier than I ever thought. And it was an eye-opener. And so I think that's one of the when people ask me what's the biggest difference between playing and coaching, just the time commitment. And then, like Coach Gale said, it doesn't turn off. Like, your mind doesn't turn off. I can't imagine what it's like being a head coach. But even as an assistant this year, you go home and you start thinking about what you could have done better, and even if you win, you're thinking about the next game. And so, and as a player, you're kind of wired to let it go. Either win or loss, you got to let it go and kind of clear your mind for the next game. But as a coach, it's completely different. So that was my game day routine.
Not a game day, but a regular practice day is pretty similar to me. We meet as a staff generally always before. Oftentimes I would be, or maybe one of the other guys, I'd get pulled out of that meeting early because somebody would want to shoot. And most of the staff that I've been a part of, the players come first, and I'm sure all you guys say that. So a lot of times I wouldn't even be able to finish the meeting. I think you see that often. And help a guy shoot. And then we'd meet usually as a team, video, things like that. Then we practice. And if we were traveling, we had a small, equipment staff and things like that. So you might be after practice helping pack. Often I felt like so many road trips we have, I'm helping pack the shoe bag, or you're grabbing 2 bags, dragging them to the bus and then coming back, things like that. And then you start your individual work, whether it's there or you get home and start doing your scouts and things like that. But I've been on different staffs where when you met as a staff, you got to plan practice with the coach, or I've been with staffs where the coach kind of came and had the practice already planned, for the most part, and we were just getting filled in on what parts we were going to do, or just getting up to speed with how practice was going to flow. So, 2 different, I guess, mentalities, because one, you have to come fresh with ideas, and the other, you got to be prepared to just implement the vision that he had. So those were the only differences, I guess I could say, for my practice. That's how practice day goes for us, for me.
I want to just chime in one thing there from what Henry said, and kind of what Jimmie said also, like making the head coach's life easier when you're an assistant coach. So when I worked under Coach Stackhouse, it was kind of what Henry just said. Like, he would come in with an idea of what he wanted to do, but one thing I took from one of the calls earlier this year was that Coach Van Gundy would text his staff what he kind of wanted them to think about for the practice plan for the next day. So Coach Stackhouse was really good at that. He would text us the night before and kind of give us some ideas. He'd come in with his idea of what he wanted to do, and then ask us for our input. Do we think this works? How does it go? And then as long as we came together and agreed on it, at the end of it, it was, we would agree, and then we'd roll out, and it was his show. But that was kind of the way we planned out practice with him.
Appreciate that, coaches. I have a quick question for all of you who have an answer for this question. Obviously, we're just coming through a pandemic where a lot of us had a lot more free time to kind of work on professional development within coaching, kind of getting better offensively, defensively, culture, different things you can do within your programs and your teams. How do you balance? So we talked about work-life, family balance. We've talked about now professional development. So how do you best find time to be a great husband, be a great father, be a great coach in your current role, but still find time to try and develop yourself and prepare yourself to ultimately what I assume most coaches on this call want to do is eventually be a head coach. So what does that balance look like for finding that balance of professional development to continue better yourself as a coach?
I think Coach Gale kind of hit it on the head earlier. Most successful people have a schedule. They have a schedule. They write it out. I found myself putting things in my calendar on my iPhone and having times where I do certain things in the day from this time to this time, and then I'm on to the next thing from this time to this time. And it sounds like Coach Gale said, it sounds kind of like fake hustle or fake or whatever, but it's not, because you have to be organized in what you're doing and how you're doing it. So, I mean, writing down my to-do list, crossing stuff off, making a schedule, putting things in the calendar. There's so many different apps that you can get that are made for this. I think you just kind of have to go for it and take it seriously and really try to plan out your day, because if you don't, we can get caught up on one thing and disregard the other things that are going on. So I think that's the best way.
I would echo the same thing. I have a schedule every day that I try to follow, and I think trying to stick to it without, I haven't been on the court in a long time, but I have like sticky notes on my desktop right here where every day is listed, and I got to, Monday I'm looking at this team's whatever, next day, I'm networking with these 8 people. I got this call to be on, and I promise you every single Zoom call that I can get on, that's in the calendar, because I think the relationship building is really important for this business, and showing who you are and trying to meet as many people at all different levels means more than, having a great end of game set. So I think you got to be intentional about what you want out of this deal, much like, operate as if you were in the office, wherever you are, whatever your job is. But at the same time, turn it off, because like for me, it's a long time, like with the seeding games in the bubble, I'm sitting there looking at basketball from 9 a.m. to 5, and I'm watching the games in the background, and all of a sudden it's midnight, and I watched basketball for in the last 15 hours, and I think you got to turn it off sometime.
So I think for me, really having a schedule is one thing. Vinny Del Negro was the first person I saw do this. Was like he from what I was told, or like the rumors were, he got jobs from being organized, right? Like he had binders, he had notebooks, and he always told me like, I don't care how fast you do it, I just want it done right, and I want it organized, and I want it the way I want it. So I really took that away from him, and so I've kind of transitioned that. But having a schedule, and then I know a lot of us probably have trouble not being busy. So keeping yourself busy in different ways, like, whether it's for me right now during the pandemic, I'm back in Los Angeles. So I'm trying to work out some younger kids that are coming up in like the high schools that I played at in that area, or reconnecting with people that I haven't seen in a long time that are now doing their thing out here and building something different, and trying to like I know X texted me about he's doing something back home, or reconnecting with coaches I played for and seeing what they're up to, and kind of similar to the Zoom idea, but trying to steal ideas from them, and really just trying to keep yourself busy somehow. And then once you get back into your season, I think that schedule will help you plan out what's most important to you. So that's the best advice I could give.
Appreciate that, coaches. We're going to open it up to Menelek for our last question, and then we'll finish out and let everybody get on with their night. So Menelek, take us home.
Oh, no pressure. I got to end it off. So I wrote this down a little bit because I want to structure it properly. I would say that the first part of it is how important is, but like the topic is basically your own personal fitness and your personal well-being. And just a little background for those of you who don't really know me. I come from like a sales background. I've had a 13-year career in sales before. And one of the things that I hated about it was in and around the travel and in and around the talk, like around the water cooler, so to speak, the level of fitness really begins to drop off. So there is obviously an on-court element to what we do, but there's a lot of sedentary stuff in what we do as well. So how are you gentlemen making time for, and would you say at your particular level that the culture is still conducive towards fitness and well-being? And if it's not, what suggestions would you make, or what suggestions would you make for up and coming coaches to be able to take care of themselves while they're pursuing this venture?
I think each situation is different, but no, I haven't been with a coach who does the staff workout. I would love that. Especially being a former player, and, I want to maintain I'm used to being in professional athlete shape, and I've watched it dwindle away. But one thing, you got to be intentional. Like, you've been hearing the word schedule, but you really got to fight for it and be intentional about it. And balance it with your workflow, obviously. And like they say, schedule it in, but also it may be, when they stretch, if you don't have anything to do while you're on the court, hey, you stretch too. If they're going through a dynamic warm-up, you get your dynamic warm-up in. And, if somebody got to do push-ups, you do push-ups with them. I think that stuff will go a long way. And like I said, like the other coaches said, whether it's you're going to have to give up some, this game, sometimes you don't get to sleep as much as you want. You're going to have to give something up for it, whether it's you're going to have to give up that extra hour of sleep before you get on the bus. You got to go down to the weight room in the hotel or whatever it is. But that's why building a routine, greatness has a routine, right? If you build a routine, it'll become easier. But you really got to be intentional about putting it in for your health. And also, I think something that's good and that there's value in is when your team sees you working out. Or if they're in the weight room and if there's space or something and they see you putting in some work, it's a way you can connect with them, laugh with them, but they also see that you're putting in somewhere, you're quote unquote grinding with them. I think there's some value in that as well.
I also think I second all of that, and I think that it's just finding your thing. You know, when I was playing, it was coaches that did it all different ways. It was one coach that everywhere we went, he found a yoga studio, and he went to go do yoga. I had a coach that everywhere we went, he went and changed, and he went on a run. You know, and so like you just have to find your thing that you enjoy. And I also don't think that it necessarily has to be physical exercise. I think that it's the eating part. You know what? You know, we probably won't be able to exercise today because, you know, things get hectic, especially in the G League. If you ever travel with the G League teams, you might not have time in a day to do anything once you get to the hotel. But I'll make sure that I eat right because, you know, eating, you hear that stat, it's like 80% of being healthy is eating anyway. And so saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to stick to this diet for this 2 weeks, boom, that's going to be my workout. And so it's just different ways, and you have to find your thing that you do and stick with it. And again, I'll say it again, get that schedule going.
Coach, just before anybody else answers, one thing that I think like really resonates with me with what you just said is the 1 year that I was on a girls team, like the 1 year I was in women's basketball, our team ate significantly healthier than any of the men's teams that I've been on. Like they really took the time to plan that out. It was really interesting to me. I was like, you know, we're supposed to be in health and fitness, and we really don't think about that on the men's side the way that we should. Like we should be having more team dinners at particular places, et cetera.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that that's huge. And even if the team isn't doing it, and I went on a few diets this year and it was really hard, but even if the team isn't doing it, you can still do it and knock it out yourself, you know?
Yeah, I think what Henry said, finding time like in practice or in the arena at some point is really big. Like getting out on the court and running, yeah, if it's the end of practice and guys have to run, you know, a training camp is an example, the free throw running drill, like, right, you miss a free throw, everyone's got to run with the team. One thing that working with Toronto with Jamal McGlure there, he used to make us all feel bad if we didn't do 100 push-ups in the pregame. So it was like you'd have your guy and then you'd go on the side and you do 25 push-ups and then you get 25 more. And every pregame we try to get 100 push-ups in. I think also like what H said, like, you know, get used to not sleeping, right? Find some time, wake up early, go to sleep late, whatever it may be. But you have to find that time in the day to get it in. So like I said, like we would run the stairs in the arena before the players even got there, because you have to figure out somewhere to do it. And then the eating healthy aspect of it is obviously huge. When you're in pro sports, you know, in Delaware, we in 905 we didn't have food with after games. In Delaware, I know Elton started giving post-game meals in the D League or in the G League at that time. So it's very easy to just load up and eat everything in front of you. Like in the NBA, you get on a team plane and there's just food, and then you have a team meal and there's food, and so it's really easy. So you really have to watch your diet and just figure out that time to get it in.
For me, like I didn't play professionally, so I took it like really prideful to be always in the weight room. Like anytime the guys were there, I was the first one in the building anyways, not to just do that because I wanted to get shit out of the way. And I'm always in there lifting, getting my stuff in so that I can, you know, prepare for the head coach. So that's what I would do for that part of it. On the road, I would pack food to bring, and I would search out places for food ahead of time. And knowing that, and me and the head coach, we like similar things in a sense, like going to healthy spots, whether it's like salad place, smoothie place, whatever that is, and being intentional about it. And on the road, there was like 4 or 5 of us that would always lift in the morning in the hotel. It would be like 7 in the morning, and you can count on the same people being there. And, you know, you kind of develop a bond that way, and it kind of feels like home a little bit. You see the same people, work out, feeling good, go to breakfast together. And it was just a way to hold each other accountable, be like, oh, because if someone's not there, they'd be like, hey, where's Jimmie? Like, why is he not here? So that was just something easy that I think can be replicated across any level.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, that wraps us up for tonight. Just want to leave everyone with a couple closing thoughts. Again, just want to thank everyone for coming on again tonight. We really appreciate the support we've gotten the past 2 weeks. We hope that coaches and of all levels have been able to learn a handful of things that'll help them better themselves. I want to thank Coach Oakman, Coach Gale, Coach Henry, and Coach Silas for coming on. This week was a little bit last minute, so we appreciate them fitting us into their schedule. Obviously, they're very busy with a lot of things to do on their plate. So again, we appreciate all 4 of you coaches coming on and sharing some wisdom with the rest of us. Just want to kind of leave you guys with another initiative that we've started. So Safet Kastrat, a manager, a rider, we started a weekly a networking Zoom call for coaches that are looking to continually meet people and coaches in the profession, even as we kind of transition back to the office. So we're going to drop that link in the chat right now. So if you're interested in coming on, it's going to be Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday. Just a platform for coaches to continually meet new people and continue to learn and grow in this business. So again, just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Really appreciate the support we've gotten, and we definitely have some events in the coming weeks that we hope we can have your support with as well. So thank you again for everyone coming out tonight.
Appreciate everyone. Like Caleb just said, thanks for coming. Coaches, panelists, thanks for dropping your knowledge, and thanks everyone. Stay in touch.
I'll echo that just before I end the call. Thank you to all of the panelists. That was really awesome. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. And I want to give a big thanks to Caleb and Jason for organizing this. This is great, gentlemen. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Appreciate all the panelists too. Thank you guys.